This episode of the Manifesting Me show is about fear. And I have titled this Fear is a Sneaky Little Bitch. And I'm going to talk about the thing that she keeps us from doing. So, at least one of the things that she keeps us from doing. And I'm going to talk about that aspect today. Fear can be beneficial. It does serve a purpose. It's just not healthy to stay in that fear and let the fear control and keep us from doing the things that we want to do or need to do, or even have a desire, just have a desire to do. And so the thing that I'm focusing on today that fear keeps us from doing is being our authentic self, being our genuine self, the real us, the true us, because we tend to, and again, I'm speaking from my experiences. These are all things that I have definitely gone through and have done and all that. We want to be joiners. And so there's nothing wrong with joining in, like joining in an activity or joining in, a group or something like that. But we then tend to take it to that level of wanting to be like the other people, or be similar, or look like them, act like them, behave like them, so that we get this sense of belonging, right? At least that's how I see it. We want this sense of belonging. So we tend to then start assimilating, for lack of a better word. There probably is a better word, so I shouldn't say lack. Also working on being very aware and conscious of the words that I use. So there is probably a better word, for lack of my knowledge or lack of my recall of a better word. Fear, wants us to be joiners. And so be with the pack, with the group, because that also translates into safety. Being by ourselves in this prehistoric or old, our reptilian brain, if you've heard that, back, when we were early humans, being on our own was identified or translated as dangerous. And so that in our current, we still have that association. So then in our current lives, in our current existence, we think of being individuals and standing out, standing apart, looking different, acting different, speaking differently, behaving differently, right? Having different beliefs, having different likes, having different desires as dangerous. It's the same feeling as being separated from the pack and separated from the collective, so that we are then in danger, right? We're in danger. Our brain perceives us as being our unique selves, as being in danger, because we're not part of the pack and not part of the collective. And so just this awareness, hopefully this gives you some kind of insight. So it's an awareness that the feeling is the same. Our brain is attaching it to that, but the circumstances are 1000% different, right? We have the ability to be ourselves, to be our unique selves, our unique flavor, our unique personalities, our unique everything, and still be safe within the collective of humanity. And that by default also is how we actually find the like-minded people, the like-minded groups, the ones that will actually feed our soul and accept us in our uniqueness, in our individuality. So today's focus on fear is just this: being yourself is the thing that fear keeps us from doing, keeps you from doing. And so how does that play out, or how can that look in the sense of fear? So let me double check my notes there a bit. So it keeps us from being ourselves, and it also doesn't show up as a scary monster, right? Like I recently talked about in my stories about how we perceive the fear, fear is like, oh, the saber-toothed tiger. Again, that early human thinking and way of existing. The saber-toothed tiger is going to, kill us and pounce on us. And it's easier to do if we're by ourselves. And so really it doesn't present in modern day as a monster in that sense. It's associating that same feeling as the saber-toothed tiger is going to jump on us. But the monster that our current brain is associating or seeing in our brain is the fear of being by ourselves, being rejected, right? So the saber-toothed tiger is rejection. The saber-toothed tiger is, what's another word for that? Being excluded, rejection, exclusion, loneliness, right? Because we think, we're going to be lonely if we're out there by ourselves doing our own thing. So really, it's doing the work to develop the confidence to show up and be and exist in that uniqueness. And a lot of times I think the trail of thoughts are, I'm fearful or I'm scared to do this. So I need to think about this, or I need to envision, and I need to be ready for when the fear is gone, right? When the fear is gone, then I can go do the thing. And then when I do the thing, I will develop the confidence to continue doing it, or I will get that confidence or I will get the confidence once the fear goes away, and then I can do the thing. And so that's a bit twisted. It's a bit skewed, because in actuality, we get the confidence that we're looking for by doing the thing. And so by taking that step, by showing up or attending somewhere or speaking your truth, or, being the you that you want to be, by taking those steps to embody that version of you, and to say the things that version of you says, and to show up and dress and behave and act and do the activities and whatever, get the tattoos, do the activities, hang out with the people, try, live somewhere that version of you would do. We think we need to have the confidence before we can do it. And the reverse is actually true. By taking those little baby steps, bit by bit, that's how we develop the confidence to continue doing it, and to then stand in that and to embody that. And when we embody that, and we portray and exude and show up and exist is the word I'm looking for, exist in that energy, then we attract the other people, which bolsters the confidence, right? But a lot of times we think being part of the collective is what will give us the confidence. And so each circumstance is unique. This is very generalized. So if you guys have specific aspects or specific ways that you're thinking about this, go ahead and either message me or comment, depending on where you're watching or listening to this. You can also email me at vision, VISION, at bluemoonmanifestations.com, and share your perspectives. And then I can either do a video about that or a future episode and respond to you in that format on the comments and email as well. And so not staying in the fear and taking the steps is how you develop that confidence. And that's what the scary monster is. That scary monster is the being alone, being unincluded. Is that a word? Unincluded. I'm using it as a word. And so if you're watching this on video, I keep taking my glasses on and off, or putting them on and taking them off, because it's warm in here today, and I only put them on to read my notes. And so by staying in that place, and in the aspect of not showing up as our real selves, we continue to play the roles, right? We continue to wear the hats that are not true to us, that others expect us to wear. We act and speak and behave in ways that others expect us to. And those others can vary. It can be society, it can be our employers, it can be our family, it can be our friends, our partners, our, people that participate in the activities that we're participating in. And so we're showing up with these masks or with these hats on, and little by little, we lose. That's why a lot of times I think also people say, well, what is your authentic self? How would you authentically show up? And a lot of times the initial response is, I don't know. I don't know who my true self is. And that's because when we're at that point, we have allowed the fear to keep us from doing it, to keep us from even trying, or to keep us from doing it again. Because maybe we did try and we felt alone, or we got ridiculed by our current group, our current circle. And so we retreated and went back. We went back into the cave, so to speak, to stay safe. And when the answer is, or the response is, I don't know, that really is an indicator that you need to get curious and start identifying those things about you that are unique to you. And it's not all going to come up at once, because it has little by little been covered over. It has been dormant for a long time, because we're born with our, our essences, our personalities, our unique traits. And the more uncomfortable other people are with those and tell us to quiet them down or put them away or not behave those ways, they become more and more dormant. But they're never gone. There is always the possibility of accessing them and being able to refuel them and regenerate them, and get curious about how that can express itself, how you can express yourself, how you can be your genuine self. And one of the ways that I work with people and I share with them and I give them this example to use is, what is the avatar or the vision or the image that you had of yourself at some point? Like maybe when you were a kid, and maybe when you were in high school or a teenager or a young adult or whatever, where you had this image of yourself that you either wished you could be, or you tried being and it didn't feel right, or it didn't land with other people. For myself, I always talk about this rock chick avatar. And I contributed to a book almost a couple years ago now. It was a compilation book. And I talked about how this rock chick is now what I use to guide, right? My decisions, the activities that I participate in, because I would imagine her. I had this vision of her, and she existed in my imagination, in my heart, in my soul. And now she is guiding me more and more. There is still work that I have to do to, to fully, I guess, embrace that, but I can definitely see where I am doing that more and more. And I can see where I when I feel myself stepping away from her, and when I feel myself going back into I need to people please, or I need to be, I was going to say respectful, because I think it's always important to be respectful, but in the respectful sense of like, don't speak up, just stay quiet, or, tone it down a little bit. And that's how I'm talking about it in this sense. So who is that vision, that version, that avatar of you? And if you really cannot access it, like where you can say, this is what I envisioned, this is how I wished I could show up, or I wish that I could do, then start with creating one. It doesn't have to stay, it's not going to be written in stone. You're not going to be, committed to it if it doesn't really resonate. But start by asking yourself, how would I like to show up? How would I like to experience life? What do I want to dress like? What activities do I want to do? especially if you're someone who by default lets other people make decisions or goes along with what someone else does. So it starts with these small baby steps. And that's why I said this is so multifaceted that I am sure I will be revisiting this topic and kind of expanding on these things. But a starting point, I think, for especially leaving it for this episode, is what is that version of you that you have kind of covered over or is hiding and waiting for you to open up that door and let him or her out? And what is that avatar of yourself that you saw that you would have loved to show up in the world as? And if you don't have access to that, if nothing comes up, what would you like it to be? And just start writing about it. Just jot down some bullet points, answer those questions, in your journal, in your planner, in your mind. It doesn't have to be anything that you share with someone, but start thinking about that. And then you use that as your check-in point, as your compass. Would this version, would this avatar, would this rock chick of mine that I envision do these things? Would she in my case, would she dim her light? Would she stop doing something because it makes other people uncomfortable? So for example, one of the things about me that I did kind of dim for a long time is like, I'm a loud human being. I am naturally loud. I speak loud. I laugh loud. I very often talk loud. And so a lot of times I would get that, oh, soft, can you talk softer? Or like, my gosh, or, you talk so loud, or you laugh so loud. And so I did tone that down. I did. And so when I started doing this work and realizing these things, that's one of the questions I would ask. Would I tone it down because someone else is uncomfortable with the volume of my voice or the fact that I laugh so loud? No, she wouldn't, and she doesn't, right? And I'm not saying that I'm going to be, loud all the time. There are times to be less loud in a library or at, hospital or something. So I'm not saying that I'm going to be blatantly rude, but would I, do that because it makes them uncomfortable in an appropriate situation? And another example of that, just to show you how it plays out, we were at a ball game when I don't know, I remember it. So teenager, preteenish somewhere. And I love sports. I mean, I grew up with a family of mostly boys. So I think by default, I just kind of gravitated towards sports. And I was like clapping like really loud and yelling. And someone said, do you have to clap so loud or yell so loud? And I was like, it caught me off guard because at the ball game and at the stadium, isn't that the absolute perfect place to be loud and cheer and, clap and all that? So I kept doing it. But I do remember it was just like, and so kind of that's what I think of when people ask or when people make comments. It's like, how weird. This is, of course it's appropriate. Why? So when it makes other people uncomfortable, that's when they tend to criticize us or ask us in not so much in these words, but to tone it down and to behave more standardized or more of what is acceptable. So this has been a longer roundabout way of saying there are many ways that we give into that fear. And then the fear comes up and shows up as like, oh, someone's going to ridicule us. It's harder to do things on my own. I don't feel safe to say these things. And so identifying them. And so along with those questions that I gave you, would this avatar version of me, do those things? Would this avatar version of me quiet down or do something so that others weren't uncomfortable, change so that they are not uncomfortable? Because why are they any more important than you? Why is your discomfort more okay than theirs, right? In an appropriate situation. It's like, why is that okay? It's not okay. It's not okay for us to diminish ourselves and for us to change because someone else is uncomfortable with it. They can move, or we can choose to move if we don't be around them, or we can choose to go somewhere else. Whatever, every case is different. But is it okay? It's not okay. So what are the steps? That is, what are the little steps that you can take? And the last bullet point that I have is, we all, if you're familiar, it's a very common phrase of doing it scared, doing it scared, or go ahead and do it scared. And what does that really mean? And what I see that as meaning is, it's not that we have to leave the fear behind to do the thing. It's okay to do something while we're scared, because I think the way that it keeps us from doing it, the way that fear holds us back, is by saying it's scary, and so because we're scared, we can't do it. And really, the truth is, the fear gets less depending on how big the step is, or how big the fear is, I should say, how big the fear is. It gets less, or it goes away when we take the action. As let fear come along for the ride. Let it sit in the passenger seat and say, okay, come along with me. It's okay. I acknowledge you. And that act of acknowledging it, saying, I'm freaking scared. This scares the bejesus out of me. Or this is really scary, or a little scary. Saying that in your head out loud to someone else, this is really scary. That, and knowing that you don't have to get rid of the fear to do it. Take it along with you for the ride. Acknowledge it and say you're scared. Say, I see you. I'm going to bring you along, and then we'll see what happens. Right? So those are the three, I guess, kind of, I don't know, takeaways or I guess points that I want to leave you with, that ask yourself, or identify your avatar, whether you've had one before or you're creating one. Ask yourself those questions. Use them as compasses. Would it be okay? Would this person, this avatar, do this or not do this to make someone else comfortable? Or would I change in this energy of that avatar? And it's okay. Know that it's okay to take the fear along with you and let it come along for the ride. And I did put an example here because I like visuals, examples, and I have seen a reel. I've seen it a couple different places, I think. And I think Anthony Hopkins, who's an actor, is the one narrating it. You don't see him because the video is of an eagle flying, and how it says, there is no other bird who would dare to attack or kind of pick at an eagle, except for a crow, I believe. And so in this video and his narration, it's saying that the crow jumps on the back of the eagle as it's flying, and it pecks at it, at its head or at its neck. And instead of fighting back, right, the eagle does not fight back or try to wriggle, off the crow. What the eagle does is fly higher. It flies higher, elevation wise. It goes higher and higher, and it is able to withstand or be fine in these higher elevations, but the crow is not. And so it gets to a certain elevation, and the crow passes out from lack of oxygen and simply falls off. Off the eagle. And it's high enough up that once it goes down, and then they didn't go into this, but I'm assuming then it gets its oxygen and it flies again. But the eagle doesn't bother to fight the crow. It simply flies higher than the crow is able to hang on. So I thought that was a great analogy, a great example, a visual for fear. Let it come along for the ride. Let it come along for the ride. Don't fight it. Don't try and argue with it. Don't try and peck at it. Just go higher. And the going higher in this instance is doing the thing, taking the step and starting. And that will raise you, be flying higher like the eagle, and the fear, like the crow, will simply fall off without having to fight or yank it off or exert more energy than you would be anyway in simply just doing the thing. You're wasting more energy, or we are, when we fight and try to combat the fear. don't combat it energetically or physically. Just do the thing, fly up higher. So that's what I have. And then before I did this podcast today, I got some cards in the mail, Oracle cards, and it's part of a subscription. And because I was doing the topic of fear today, I decided to look through them and see if there was one for fear, or having an association with fear. And so I pulled it. This was not like an intuitive card pull to see what the message was. I on purpose pulled one, and it is a deck. I was not familiar with it, but it's Guides of the Hidden Realms by Colette Baron Reed. So I am familiar with her. I have a couple other of her decks. And if you are listening to this just audio on podcast, I am going to show the card so you can see it on YouTube or on Spotify or even on the Facebook and Instagram replay. The card for fear, it says the consequence of fear, contraction, the frequency of fear, and then self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's a blue card, and it has kind of like a little alien looking creature head in there. But I will read you the description from the book. And then I hadn't planned it, but it came today in the mail. So I said, hey, why not? So the key concepts for that card are contraction, decisions made from stress, patrolling for potential threats, aligning with the frequency of fear, and then a self-fulfilling prophecy. Fear is a natural emotional reaction meant to keep us safe from danger. It becomes unhealthy when it's inappropriately prolonged. When our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are fear-based, and we keep rehearsing those fears, then our expectations, choices, and behaviors align with this energy. We begin to notice more and more reasons to be anxious and stressed, and we unwittingly send out a frequency that keeps us forever on patrol against outside threats. So the more we focus our energy on that, the more we look for more evidence of it. Lately, you might be more defensive, engaging in people-pleasing, or isolating yourself to avoid hurt. No matter what you're doing as a stress response, it's time to step back and let it be. You can't change the outside world, but you can make an intentional shift. First, ask yourself, is this decision based in fear and a need for control? Am I afraid of rejection or reprisal? Where do I need to say no? Then consider the act of radical allowing, letting everything, both people and circumstances, be exactly as they are without question. In doing so, you also make room for your authentic self. Oh, cool. See? Synchronicities. You also make room for your authentic self. Soon, the fear will show itself for what it is, a temporary illusion. The power is in your attention. So there's some information, some insight for you. And hopefully it was helpful, or something about this, either the card and the description or this episode resonated with you, or you can come back and listen to it again if you're having a moment of fear. And so that is what I have for you guys today. I look forward to next week and beyond. And if this is something that resonates with you, I do invite you to just share it on to someone else, pass it on, and hope that it finds someone that is meant to hear it or that will benefit from it. And I will see you guys next week. That's what I have. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.